Hey everyone, Aaron here with my 2026 NAMM Takeaways. First of all, if you don't know anything about NAMM, it is a yearly conference that takes place in Anaheim, California, where music retailers, professionals, artists all come together and share what they've been working on. And this is my second year going. First takeaway, and I should have known this because I've gone before, is this conference is absolutely huge. I think I underestimated the size. When I got there, I had sort of a plan, but the first day, which was the Thursday, I went in kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna check this out and check this out, but then I just got completely overwhelmed with the sheer size of the space and ended up actually only in one of the several buildings that the conference is held in, and went home like completely like, ugh, like what am I doing? So the best plan of action is to really sketch out exactly where you want to go every day, and also what areas you're going to just basically ignore, because it's impossible to see the entire thing just in the few days of the conference. So that's a hot tip. Maybe that's obvious, but I recalibrated for the next day and had a much better time. So the first thing I actually did when I got there was attend a session at Mix with the Masters with Andrew Sheps. Andrew Sheps is a mix engineer who has mixed all kinds of people, huge credits list, Beyonce, Hozier, Diana Ross, many, many others. And it was just really cool to hear him talk about his process and hear some of the like nerdy stuff that he does with SoundFlow, which is like an automation app for repetitive tasks that are inside of Pro Tools, like printing stems and things like that. And then one thing he said that really stuck with me was the most important part of a mix is the transition between sections, not the sections themselves. And I was like ruminating on that for a while after he said that, because that really rang true. And that's a great way of articulating what is important about getting that right in the mix. So how it transitions into the next section and what you're doing there deliberately to make, the verse feel a certain way, to make the chorus feel a certain way, and the anticipation you're creating and going from one section to the next. And so I thought that was really cool, and I was thinking about that for a while after. I also checked out the Warm Audio booth. If you don't know, Warm Audio makes really affordable copycat versions of very popular, expensive products. So they have all of their versions, and they do a really good job of making them look like the real thing. Whether they sound like the real thing, the jury's out on that. I have actually used their 1176. It's in one of the studios I work at. And I will say their 1176, which is called the WA76, does not sound like an 1176. I'm sorry. And so I went in, I've used a few of their other pieces of gear, but I went into their booth sort of skeptical. But then I was actually sort of pleasantly surprised with a few of their products. So the WA84 is their small diaphragm condenser microphone, and I was at a little station and testing that, and it actually sounded very, very nice. Warm, smooth, and just natural. It had a little scooped mids, but it was nice. Not too bright, so definitely check that one out. And then their guitar pedals were actually really cool. Their version of the Klon was cool, and then their version of the Boss CE1 Chorus actually sounded really good too. So I think the takeaway here is sometimes they get it right. Not always, but sometimes. And my advice would be, if you want to check out a Warm Audio product, buy it somewhere where you can return it, or you can try it for 30 days or whatever. Maybe you'll strike gold. I was really excited to stop by Bellows Audio. This is a in-ear monitor company, and I bought actually a pair of their in-ears 2 years ago at NAMM, the first time that I went. I was not planning on buying them, but then I tried out kind of their universal fit model of the X4, which is the 4-driver ears, and my ears were like long gone. I had had them for 10 years. And so I just bought them on the spot because they were running a NAMM special, and they've been amazing for me. So they're custom molded. They actually did the molds 2 years ago when I was at NAMM. I wanted to stop by to say hello to the team and Vlad, the owner, but my cable was like shorting out, and I was gonna ask him about it, like, hey, can I buy a new cable or whatever? And they had spare cables there, and they just gave me a new one. So shout out Bellows Audio, awesome company. Check them out for sure, really great stuff. I also stumbled upon this new personal monitor mixer from Here Technologies. These guys make these personal mixers for use in studios mostly, where you can kind of set your own mix when you're recording. And this device was called the Switchback Plus, and it's really cool because it is a standalone Dante device. I've been looking for something that like doesn't require a hub and like routing to come out of Pro Tools, but just a standalone device. It can receive Dante, 64 channel. These things are like a little bit expensive, but it's actually not too crazy. I think he said that they were gonna retail from like $1,200 to $1,500 each, which is not crazy for what they do. And so I'm gonna try, we'll see, but my day job has a studio in Kirkland, and I'm gonna see if we can get like 4 of these for that studio, because that would be awesome. Another thing I did was I sat and listened to a panel with Chris Lord-Alge and Phil X. These guys are like legends of hard rock production. Phil X is a guitar player who actually plays with Bon Jovi now, and Chris Lord-Alge is sort of really well known for just doing in-your-face rock mixes. Extensive credits list, you can Google him. He was exactly how I thought he would be: brash, cocky, irreverent, bold. And love him or hate him, my takeaway from it was ego, like actually a big ego, can sometimes sort of be helpful in decision making when you're mixing, because this is a guy who will like crank famously 12K or 10K like all the way up. He mixes on an SSL console, and he's just not shy. And it's one thing I've learned from him is just not being shy about really brightening something up if it needs it. You know, with the right tools, if you're bold with your decisions, that's why he continues to get hired for work, and that's why he gets the results that he does, which are great results. Big, bright, wide sounding mixes, and his work speaks for itself. And it was fun to listen to both of those guys chat about their experience. I also caught the end of Greasy Will talking over at Sound Toys about his approach to production and mixing. And I found him on TikTok, and he's just this really funny, no BS, very experienced engineer. And I really just like his approach. One of the things he does on TikTok is like responds to guys who have like terrible takes on things. So he's like, no, that's BS. That's not true. I just like his approach to that. There's a lot of like snake oil salesmen out there who are saying, oh, I can hear up to 50K or whatever it is, whatever outlandish thing people are saying. He's like, no, that's not true. That's BS. Don't believe them. And one of the things that he said was, don't set your delays to exactly like a quarter note and eighth note in a song. Get the quarter note, eighth note, but then he'll change it to milliseconds and change the right side by a little bit and change the left side by a little bit. And I find, similar to him, that actually gives me a little bit more of an organic result somehow, because I think when you have like an exact quarter note or eighth note, the repeats are gonna hit when a bunch of other stuff is hitting. So they're gonna hit exactly when like the next snare drum hits or whatever the case may be in a certain song. Whereas if it's slightly off, it's gonna hit just a little bit before or just a little bit after. And so you will notice it just that much more. And it's a subtle thing, but it can be actually very effective and helps, I think, for a delay to sit more nicely in its own place in a mix. So I liked that he said that. Another thing he said is he was talking about AI, and he was like, man, AI mastering is like already here. You know, just forget about that. That battle's over. AI mixing is coming. And, you know, what can we do as engineers and producers except, I think, lean into following mistakes, following imperfections. So we do something by accident. Sometimes maybe you're scrolling through presets and you're not even looking for, you know, a certain preset, and all of a sudden you come upon something that's totally out of left field and totally changes the direction of a song. Chase those moments of inspiration, I think, because that's something that I think is unique to us as humans. Whereas, you know, AI will just sort of follow like a script of what's been done before 100 million times or whatever. And it might do a good job of it, but it wouldn't necessarily take that left turn that you would as a human, finding a moment of inspiration and going, oh, this ballad, like what if we made it a pop song? And so I love doing that personally. I love when things take you by surprise in the studio. And so that was cool to hear him talk about that. I saw a few really fun live performances at NAMM. The first one was Chris Buck and his band. I know Chris Buck from YouTube. He's like a guitar player, YouTuber, and he has this kind of blues rock band that he plays in. Really cool to hear him just go off on a solo on a song or two. And he plays this Yamaha Revstar, which I actually bought one. There was someone trading one, but I really love this thing. And he sort of discovered it and loved it as well. And now he has a signature model that he was like debuting actually at NAMM. But it was really cool to hear him play. Just a great, really tasty player. And another highlight for me was Matteo Mancuso. This guy is this 29-year-old Italian guy who is just absolutely out of his mind on the guitar. Plays just with fingers, and almost like he plays with like these two fingers really fast, like you're playing a bass. Just has his own totally unique style, and just no one, I think, even touches like what this guy's doing. Many people say the greatest living guitar player right now. And the other two guys in his band too, his bass player and his drummer, were like keeping up with him on every song as well. And I saw almost his whole set, and he was just amazing to watch. Like jaws were just on the floor watching this guy. I just just kept laughing when he would do these runs and stuff. So good. So that was cool to see. I of course saw a billion other things, and it's impossible to summarize everything that I saw. The next time I go, I want to be even more intentional about where exactly I'm going, schedule some meetups with people, schedule some time with companies to talk specifically about products and maybe interview some people. I just love going because it's super fun to nerd out about all of this gear, and it's a great excuse to go to Southern California at the end of January when it is always cold and rainy here in Seattle. Regarding AI, I actually thought this would be more represented at the show than it was. In my first video, I was like, oh no, everyone's gonna be talking about AI, but it was kind of more under the surface. A few companies were talking about it and leading with AI, and like Google was there and with a small little booth doing their thing. But for most people, I found that they had sort of the same opinion and thoughts on it as I did, which was, who knows what's gonna happen? A little bit of anxiety about it, a little bit of like angst about all of this money that's being spent on trying to replace humans. But I think most people just sort of are like, you know, shrugging their shoulders like, oh, what's gonna happen? And to me, I don't have a crystal ball, but it seems like AI is just gonna be a tool in the hands of still human engineers, whatever field that you're in. And so I think leaning into the tool side of AI, like Andrew Sheps talked about Spectral Layers, a product from Steinberg that really saved him, where they were recording a vocal and a piano and there was just way too much bleed, you know, too much piano in the vocal mic, too much vocal in the piano mic. And he said he could not have mixed that record without Spectral Layers. But something like that, I think, is totally useful. Tools like that, I think, will continue to be developed and continue to be useful for engineers like him and like me. And I don't mind leaning into that side of things. But as far as the rest of it, who knows? We'll just have to wait and see what the future holds and what our AI overlords eventually want us to do with our lives. Then finally, it was interesting just to walk around and realize how music exists in such a foundational, visceral, instinctual monkey brain area of our lives. This was comically overrepresented in the sheer amount of colorful characters, weirdos, niche products, and chaotic energy of the show itself. Music is just something that humans will always be interested in, regardless of what the music business can offer us in any particular year. We're all scratching out our names in our little corners of the world, insignificant as they may be. And I liked feeling like my contribution is a small part of that. So thanks for following along with me. Drop any questions you have in a comment, and I'll see you all soon.